Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is your host, Kushalmehra. Today, we're going to talk about another book. The book's name is Viksit Bharat, India at 2047. And I have the author, Aditya Pittie, with me. Aditya ji, thank you and congratulations on the book.
Thank you, Kushalji. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So let's start a bit of your journey. I mean, I was just talking to you offline, like in a very funny way. I have a connection with your family which you did not even know about, and my father used to be a consultant in Raja Bahadur years ago. But you're a venture capitalist to say that would be your primary occupation.
Kushalji, it's the world is a really small place. When you told me about your association with our old family mill in Pune, it was really surprising. That was the first industry that was set up in Pune, and it was established in 1893. So, deep roots with Pune city. So today I wouldn't really call myself a venture capitalist. I've been an angel investor. I keep doing that. Nowadays, I enjoy mentoring teams a little more than the investing piece of it. But aside from that, we've always run businesses and industries. So today, I run a precision machined components business, which is automotive and aerospace. We are also in solar energy, real estate, and also angel investing and my activities with startups.
Fair enough. Uh, like, what made you write this book? Like, what came into your mind? Like, and why specifically 2047? Is it something to do that the prime minister had set the target and that's why we're looking at that? And why did you basically decide, okay, I'm going to look at how this journey would be achieved?
Sure, Kushalji, couple of things. 2047 is a target set by the Honorable Prime Minister, also coinciding with 100 years of India's independence, because that's the roughly the kind of time that we will require to get classified as a developed nation. So it's all those dates kind of converge on 2047. One of the main reasons for writing this book, Kushalji, was we are today in a world inundated by opinions and I would say biased narratives. You can have an opinion, I can have, somebody else will have. But my training as an engineer and my education, I've always believed in data and frameworks. So I said that can we write a story with data and numbers? So this entire narrative to first of all present a picture of where India is at today, and then extrapolate to our targets of 2047 and what are the journey or the pathways that will get us there. So, even my reference citation section in the book is 40 pages long. And, data doesn't lie. I just love using a quote that I use even in my businesses by W. Edwards Deming, who was a quality guru. And he says that in God we trust, rest must bring data. So, the idea entirely was how do we tell a story with data and also kind of unbundle what Honorable Prime Minister said or means when he talks about Viksit Bharat. So, our vision of a Viksit Bharat, literal translation is developed India, is very different from the Western viewpoint. The Western viewpoint is very fixated on economic numbers. The definition of a developed country comes from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, IMF, which say that if the per capita income of a country is more than 15,000 US dollars, it's classified as a developed country. But I think what Honorable Prime Minister spoke about and which kind of got resonated with me and attracted me to this vision is first of all, I view this as a vision and mission statement for the country, just like corporates have. And here the vision is much more holistic. It talks not only about achieving these per capita income targets, but a minimum quality and standard of life for every individual in the country. Average can you can achieve an average by poorer getting poorer and richer getting richer. But this is a much more inclusive and equitable vision, protecting the environment along with that, having pride in our culture. So this, I also wanted to unbundle all of this in the book.
So Let's circle back to what you said earlier about measurement criterias being different and Viksit Bharat. So where would we do that? Nowadays we have that happiness index business, but my whole problem with that happiness index at a personal level always tends to be like, how do you gauge a person is happy or not? Because culturally, different cultures have different means. Like, for example, within India, the idea of having a meal after a meal in the evening, you know is happiness. In the Western world, it is unhealthiness, for example. So how do we gauge, like, what is the Viksit Bharat measurement criteria then?
It's actually a very interesting question, Kushalji. The idea is ultimately a developed nation, we have to achieve that per capita income target or achieve that number, which, as per what I've, kind of explained in the book and written about, that will take us another 22 odd years for us to get there. But these other things, not a lot of this cannot be measured, though some things can. I'll just give an example, say, of I mentioned that, we need to get to these targets, industrialize, etc., while protecting the environment in a sustainable manner. Now, some of this can be measured. Like the average world per capita CO2 emission is something like 4.8 metric tons of CO2. In India, even today, we're at about 1.9 metric tons of CO2 per person. So some of these things can be, quantified and show that we are, in fact, on this journey in a very sustainable manner. A lot of the other developed countries in the world got to where they are by ignoring a lot of these things. They were on the hard path of industrialization, they did it, and then they started looking at things like environmental protection. We as a developing country are looking at this even along this journey of growth. We're doing it in a very sustainable and responsible manner.
So now here's the thing: when it comes to economic journeys, right? Let's say if you were a country that was in the 1800s or the 1900s, the technology was different, the environmental realities were different, things were different. So how does India chart its growth trajectory? Clearly, India missed the manufacturing revolution, the first manufacturing boom that all went to China. We Whatever was missed is missed. We can't really talk about it. We did take the service sector, but considering the tensions between India and America, I don't know how long that can be sustained. At least for the next foreseeable future, at least for the next 3 years, until the current MAGA movement is there, the hostility to Indian tech outsourcing and many other businesses is going to be there. Considering that, how and in considering the larger Viksit Bharat image that you have in mind, how does one, because every 25 years the fundamental nature of the economy, the society, and of climate itself changes. So how does one chart that trajectory?
Uh, a couple of points here, Kushalji. I think, India today is dealing with geopolitics in a very smart and pragmatic manner. I literally think sometimes the Honorable Prime Minister is playing 3D chess. Things are so complex, and to keep up with, what's happening out there. So, just a quick side note to what you said in this question, I think some of the statements coming out both out of White House and New Delhi yesterday or early this morning, depending on our time zones, is very different. And I think there is some conciliatory remarks that have been made. Keeping that aside, I think on the technology front, I'm not concerned. I'm a very positive person. I think we've developed tremendous capabilities in the country. And regardless of, outsourcing or geopolitics and all of that, we have, this is a huge asset to the country. And, whatever happens, this is something that we will be able to leverage very effectively because it's a huge talent pool, and that will be deployed in, various meaningful ways. As far as manufacturing goes, we've taken a very active step to boost manufacturing in India, as you know, whether it's with the Make in India program and also the production linked incentives, PLIs. And more, the leadership, is talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is a self reliant India. And we understand the need, which is now also a strategic need to have a lot of manufacturing capabilities in India across all sectors, not just in any specific sector. And India is actually doing that. Two examples stand out. One is mobile phone manufacturing. We just 5 years ago, we didn't really manufacture any mobile phones in the country. And today we are the world's second largest mobile phone manufacturer. Also, defense equipment. India was always an importer of defense equipment. And now, with a lot of the initiatives, we are not only manufacturing in India, but we're also exporting a lot of defense equipment to the rest of the world. The third technology thing is about our digital payments and UPI, which is a story that's well known. But the numbers always astound me, Kushalji. Just I think a few days back, the latest numbers came out, and I think in the UPI transactions in India have now crossed 20 billion in 1 month. That's a billion with a B. So yeah, I am a positive person, and I see that all of these things are going to hold us in good stead going forward.
Uh, I kind of agree with you, but here's my concerns as far as the Indian manufacturing story is concerned. Now, I was a manufacturer. You actually come from this manufacturing background. You still are there. Now, still now in India, MSME sector still probably is considerably the largest contributor to the Indian economy. More than 80% of manufacturing still is, in a very small quantity kind of area. In fact, even in the business, which, my father was connected to the Raja Bahadur mills, we eventually started our own textile processing unit. We had ran two successfully. And eventually the problems that I always faced was the overbearing bureaucracy, the impractical pollution norms, because whether it's, a plant of the scale of the Raja Bahadur mills, where, let's say the quantum of fabric, we'll use the textile analogies because you will perfectly get what I'm saying. So let's say आपके यहाँ पे capacity होगी 50 लाख मीटर रोज की. मैं just एक hypothetical कर रहा हूँ.
Oh,
It's not
yes.
50 lakhs. It must be 10-15 lakhs. आप लोग ऐसा कुछ प्रोसेस करते होगे. हम लोग 1.5 लाख 2 लाख करते थे. हमारी क्वांटिटी कम थी. So now the quantum of effluent is different. Every single cost varies. Every single thing varies. But when it came to the pollution norms were set, let's say, at the level of Raja Bahadur or Alok Industries or something of that sort, and they were never kept in consideration of the MSME sector. And like it or not, the MSME sector was the backbone of the entire industry. And textile being such a labor intensive industry, आप कितनी भी automation कर लो, eventually वो पीछे स्टेंटर के पीछे वो छेड़ा पकड़ने के लिए वो मशीन नहीं कर सकती है, वो आदमी को ही खड़ा रहना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज द फैब्रिक ओपनर डज नॉट ओपन. एंड इवन यूरोप कुड नॉट डू इट, and Europe eventually outsourced these things to other countries. But the amount of torture people have to go in India, and I don't think a lot of times people consider this torture quotient in that. Would you accept that, or would you accept that this is real? And did you consider this, that the bureaucracies in immense hatred of the business class in that?
So, a couple of things, Kushalji. My familiarity with the textile business is very limited because, all over Maharashtra, Mumbai, Pune, all of these textile mills more or less shut down in the 80s. So, kind of before I joined business, yes, but I've heard all the stories and understand, why some of these great mills shut down. So that's been a big negative there during those times. But personally, Kushalji, there has been a massive sea change. I've been in business since the mid 90s myself, and I have seen the dramatic shift. Some of the businesses we operate are in the MSME sector, and I can tell you that there has been dramatic changes in the last 10, 12 years. Nowadays there is hardly anyone ever visiting your factory as far as the bureaucracy or, inspectors go. India was notorious for Inspector Raj, earlier in the 90s and early 2000s. Today, there is excise sales tax used to be a very notorious problematic area that all got consolidated into GST. I don't think I recall in the last decade if anyone has ever visited us or we've had to, waste time, effort, or money on anything related to that. So also, on the personal side, whether it's income tax, etc., it's now all faceless, nameless, online. If things are above board, that friction with bureaucracy has reduced dramatically. I'll just give you one interesting example. I have been out of the country traveling, and in my absence for one of my businesses, we were trying to get a loan for putting up a solar rooftop power plant. And now this happened without my presence in the country. Most of the documents were uploaded by the accounts finance team online onto the portals. I was just asked to provide one OTP that came to me on my phone. I sent that, and in under 24 hours, we had a sanction letter for a fairly, decent sized loan to put up a solar rooftop power plant in my factory in Pune, and that too at a very attractive interest rate. So this was under some scheme of the government of MSME, along with some of the financial institutions like SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank of India. So, since you spoke about it, this thing happened to me just over the course of the last few days. And I myself was amazed at how frictionless, easy, and helpful this was.
So yeah, in some areas, I would say definitely corruption in India has reduced. I clearly remember few years ago when suddenly एक बार मुझे मेरा GST का refund ऐसे ही आ गया. मैंने बोला ये कैसे हो गया? And I clearly remember dad telling me वो अभी चेक कर ले वो GST का रिफंड है कि नहीं है, क्योंकि रिफंड तो बिना पैसा खिलाए आता ही नहीं था इंडिया में. वो सिंपल सिस्टम होता था, आपका X lakhs का रिफंड है, ऑफिसर बोलता था भाई इतना टका दे दो तो मैं तुम्हारा चेक रिलीज करूंगा, नहीं तो मैं नहीं करूंगा. So I
Kushalji, that this there is I think this is like PTSD of dealing with the environment in India. Those of us, in some way, we are giving out our age as well. But really, honestly, a lot of this stuff doesn't happen because it's all got faceless and nameless. You're not connected to a particular range, even in income tax, where somebody is, finds a need to trouble you, to release your refunds, etc. It's happening electronically, instantly. Even if there are some red flags in your returns, those are flagged. The officer who's looking at your case doesn't know your name. He doesn't know anything. He will definitely not be located in the city where you live. And hence, this happens just with paperwork, questions being raised on a portal, you answering, uploading documents. So I think we're on the right path. Again, my training, I always look at trends. So I think the trend is good. We are reducing all this red tape vigorously. The one point I would definitely like to make, Kushalji, is, the large structural reforms took place very quickly under Honorable Prime Minister, whether it's GST, insolvency, banking code, etc. And now, really actively, the government is looking at process reforms. So, what I view as the wrinkles in the system, because we have these complex, laws, complex acts, absolutely convoluted, and the government is really looking at things line by line, realizing where the wrinkles are, the subjectivity is there. Those are being removed fairly quickly. It's a complex and a large task, but I think we're on the right path. That, along with what's called the Jan Vishwas Act, this has been done to boost ease of doing business. Most of our laws related to running businesses involved the option of also filing criminal cases against the owners and promoters of these businesses. So a lot of these things are also being, reduced. The criminal actions have been, deleted in a lot of these provisions. So definitely trying to boost ease of doing business in the country.
Uh, I get what you're saying, but I still feel at the small scale, uh, we have a long way to go in India. We need to improve a lot there over there, and I think most of the corruption in India has now gone on to the municipal level. I'm being very serious. I,
No, I agree. The term I like to use is, there is a little bit of retail level corruption there. And but in with this also I agree with you. But I also would like to, I interact with a lot of industry associations and people running small industries. And one thing I definitely tell them is that even you as owners or people running businesses need to be a little bold and push back as well. I think the problem is both ways, Kushalji. I'm agreeing that there is some retail level corruption there in the system, but equally the promoters have to push back. Many of these things are not dramatic or will hamper or harm their businesses. Sometimes, we've also reached a habit of someone asks you for something and you're very quick to comply with that. So if there is a bit of pushback given, I myself have seen number of cases where I've advised people, they just raise these issues to higher authorities. You tweet about it, you put it on social media. This dramatically goes away. So just a little thing that we ourselves must stand up, understand our rights. And definitely there are people out there who listen to you if you raise the alarm.
Fair enough. I actually, this is something I agree with. Social media has been a great boon for naming and shaming municipalities. Now, I want to focus on one bit of your book and that's section 4 of your book, where you talk about urban development and smart cities. Now, this is India's bane. I am from Mumbai. My father was born in Mumbai. My mother's from Delhi. We've seen Delhi, NCR, the National Capital Region grow. We've seen Mumbai. We have a giant urban infrastructure problem in India. We have I think a giant से भी अगर कोई बड़ा word होगा तो वो use करना चाहिए. We refuse to plan our cities properly. I've had people previously, Ruben and Pritika, they run an urban think tank, and they had come on the podcast, and we had discussed how it's not the actual population numbers that are a problem; it's actually bad planning that is a problem in India, and we just refuse to learn from those lessons. But you seem to be very positive in your book about urban planning, so now let's focus on that, because अगर आप इस समय किसी को गुड़गांव में जाके बोलोगे तो वो आपको ऐसी गंदी नजरों से देखेगा. So
It's I understand where you're coming from and I see this as well. But, this is a slightly more complex problem uh, because of also how a lot of kind of, laws are structured and who's responsible for what. This is also something very difficult to unravel, but attempts are being made. Now, people don't realize that, a lot of some things are the responsibility of the local municipal corporation, some things are of the state government, and very few things of the central government. A lot of times, what's happening is that there is a big mismatch in coordination amongst these, kind of people who are responsible. And that is one of the big issues also facing urban planning. The other thing is, for sure, in terms of our smart city planning, lot needs to be done. Uh, we are not, the idea is unfortunately, with the pace of development in Indian cities and with the way population is growing there, things are being planned more for the short term rather than the long term. The viewpoint like you said rightly, has to change. It's literally like, what do we do now to take care of the problems that are going to be there for the next 1 year, rather than thinking, 10 or 20 years ahead and then breaking it up into pieces and implementing it in phases. I think it's a more kind of a stopgap, short-term thinking that can be improved for sure. I also hear once again, Kushal, we all know problems. I'm more like to I look at solutions and see how do we get out of there. But one of the other things also is a lot of times, the citizen activism gets misplaced on who you're blaming. I see this happening in Pune also all the time. There's a pothole, like we said, it's very effective to tweet, but people are sometimes, tweeting the Honorable Prime Minister. Even if he was to see it, the idea is that it's not his jurisdiction. You have to understand who is responsible for what. That is also a big point of confusion and delays. We have a couple of large infra projects happening in Pune, and sometimes this over activism also, we as citizens are putting roadblocks. We have a huge riverside development happening in Pune. And time and again, you have groups of activists who've, taken the corporation to courts over the same issue repeatedly. This delays development. I myself know there's some couple of large road projects within the city that need to be executed, road widening, etc., to ease traffic in Pune, where I live. And again, over tree cutting, etc., they keep blocking and hampering development. So I would say a lot of the blame, again, I like to look at things holistically, lies with citizens as well, because there are well established rules by National Green Tribunal, Supreme Court, etc., that obviously, if you widen a road, some trees will be felled, unfortunately. But there are well laid out guidelines on how do you do replanting, how many new trees have to be planted to compensate for a tree that was felled and unable to be transplanted. And this, unfortunately, delays a lot of the projects midway. So, a lot of times when we are complaining about corporations having dug up a road and left it midway, a lot of times you don't know how often these people are fighting in courts. I've had some people off the record tell me, especially from the corporation side, that most of their time is going fighting cases and putting all the time, energy, and attention to meeting lawyers and fighting these cases. You yourself come from Mumbai, you know all what happened with the Mumbai Metro, this
Yeah.
metro shed. And see, you turned out how it was a totally false bogey. And now with all that out of the way, but it delayed the project for years. The cost escalated dramatically. And now that it has been executed, you see what a superb lifeline it's for Mumbai city, and the quantum of passengers using it every day, improving their ease of living, moving around the city, and dramatically reducing the number of cars on the road. So this is also something I keep cautioning. And just another point, sorry, I've droned on about this, but it bothers me. One of the reasons in the book also for writing the book was to try and really keep stressing the fact that, for Viksit Bharat, all citizens will have to step forward and do something for nation building. I fundamentally believe that this is absolutely critical, as per their own interest, time, etc. So when I roam around, especially in the NCR region, not so much in Mumbai, where traffic is relatively more disciplined, you're seeing people jumping red lights all the time, driving on the wrong side of the road, and, kind of spoiling it for everyone else. So I keep saying that again, bit of self-discipline there, and literally, following traffic rules to me is also your contribution to nation building. So there's a bit of citizen responsibility there. And if we all did it, just imagine how wonderful our cities would be. It's easy to complain about traffic police and corporation and all that. But if we all followed traffic rules, I think this is all our contribution to nation building and to Viksit Bharat.
Fair enough. I do believe it's a chicken and egg scenario. I've never understood in India why people start honking when the signal turns green. It's as if hey green हो गया हाँ मुझे भी दिख रहा है ना तो तू क्यों हॉर्न मार रहा है भाई तो मतलब मेरे को भी तो दिख रहा है and Indians tend to have per capita less rights consciousness. That is also a fair criticism. I think Indians are just not rights conscious. Their idea of rights consciousness is मैं जाएगा मैं वोट करेगा और वो बाकी सब काम करेगा and understanding of the different levels of the government, like an MP is not supposed to fix your bathroom, the municipal corporator is, but भारत में एमपी एमएलए म्युनिसिपैलिटी वो तीनों टट्टी पिशाब इश्यूज में ही लगे रहते हैं and I have seen this because I have worked with a member of parliament for 2 terms. So I know what the member of parliament in Mumbai has to go through. मतलब वही करते रहते हैं और टाइम नहीं मिलता है कि रियल पॉलिसी में जाना. You should be holding your MP accountable for the amount of questions the MP has asked in the question hour in the parliament, but clearly not. You should ask your MP how many private members bill has your MP ever thought of proposing in your parliament. Never done. एमएलए का तो भूल ही जाओ. एमएलए क्या करता है, कौन फॉलो करता है असेंबली की प्रोसीडिंग्स हमारे स्टेट की. It is a mess. I understand all of that, but somewhere down the line, the ambiguity of laws in India is a serious concern. Now that is something I know the current government is trying to fix. I'm very much aware of that. But still, um, I'll give you an example. Yusuf Unjawala, he was there on my podcast just previously. And when Yusuf came, he gave me an amazing story. Abhijit shared the story of Yusuf and I confirmed with Yusuf. So, it was just एक gold color था उसके प्लास्टिक के प्रोडक्ट के ऊपर. एंड द ऑफिसर लाइक नहीं ये तो लग्जरी है, तूने जीएसटी की चोरी की है क्योंकि ये गोल्ड है. अरे वो प्लास्टिक है. But see, the cost of litigation itself, the cost of litigation and the time litigation takes in India adds such a giant cost to the business कि आदमी discourage हो जाता है business करने को. There have been occasions where it is the law clearly states कि if you are XYZ, this is exempt from these taxes. But they still send you a notice. And then you have to fight that notice and you have to go through the process, and that discretionary power is a serious bottleneck. Like honestly, India right now is at 7% is because the Indian entrepreneurial class works despite the government. If actually the government got out of the way a lot more, I think our growth rate would easily touch a 8-9 percentage number quite easily. And obviously the judiciary can add 1% because pata nahi wo kahan se apni ninja techniques se judiciary adds itself into everything. And I don't know why. Like I recently, shared my views on Twitter that India needs to get out of this mindset of gated communities. India should have gated cities, police and fire. That should be the only problem of the government of India. Baki, just get the hell out of my life. But clearly, I'm a minority in India who believes that the government should be out of my life. Indians love government. Why do Indians love government so much?
There are many issues in the stuff you spoke about, Kushalji. So, this, I personally feel a lot of these anecdotes don't sound very practical, this gold on all that, if it's plastic, because if one, properly represents, I personally don't think this can be an issue from my experience, understanding of business. The other thing is, at least from the government side, judiciary is an area that is in need of tremendous reforms. This tariq pe tariq thing has to go. Cases have to be dealt with, pun intended, judiciously and quickly. You can't, justice delayed is justice denied. There is no doubt in that. However, from the government side, there are always two litigants. They are trying to get out and reduce litigation. For example, in taxation for tax demands, now, various brackets have been established. So if the government's tax demand is, say, just up to 10 lakh rupees, then they are not going to, they will not appeal in High Court. If it's below a certain level, then you can't keep appealing. Earlier with government, government just cannot say arbitrarily decide to not pursue litigation. But by establishing these brackets, a lot of the load on the courts is going to reduce, and the government is not unnecessarily going to keep litigating the smallest thing right up to Supreme Court. So some of these things are being tried from the government side to reduce litigation at their end. Courts have to dispense justice quickly. That's something that was attempted. And I think the intent is, to push through reforms there as well. As far as, government out of the way, I personally don't think so. Today, a lot of the work being done by the government is extremely supportive, in fact, to small businessmen. A lot of the schemes, whether it was, allowing you to open accounts with the Jandhan bank accounts, etc., and the Mudra loan schemes, Kushalji, which have provided, these micro loans to people, has shown tremendous results. If you see the data, the kind of, businesses that have got generated, there's virtually the NPAs there is very, very less, etc. I think one other thing that I talk to people about is kind of there are many Indias within our India. And, how people think sitting in urban metros is very different. Me included, that's a very small bubble, a very small slice of the India pie. And if we look at the rest of India, middle India, lower India, all of that, the world there is very different. And there, the support that's needed with many of these schemes, I just mentioned about that, green solar energy financing scheme. I have seen MSME loans are now passed within 24 hours. If you're fitting, you tick all the boxes, etc. So my personal belief is, the government's trying to be supportive. How we look at things in urban metros is sometimes very different from the reality out there.
Fair enough. Now I want to go into the next section. Now, this is number 7. Now, again, you've shared a lot of information there, but how would you counter the criticism? Now, again, I had a detailed discussion on this with Mohandas Pai about the image that India lags way behind when it comes to innovation and research and development. Indian corporate houses tend to per capita invest far less in research and development. Now, Mohandas ji's reply was that, Kushal, it cannot be done by the company alone. It has to be the government together with the companies that has to invest a giant chunk in actual R&D. Now we are entering, the semiconductor race where, listen, the geopolitical realities are what they are. We are going to be starved if we don't innovate, whether it's defense, whether it's many other things. Now, I fundamentally believe, my background being in philosophy, that we are a risk-averse society for multiple reasons. It's our poverty. In general, if you ask, uh, you know, Indians, they don't have the luxuries. On average, Indians don't have the luxuries. Obviously, today's generation is far more risk-taking, let's say, than my generation. I was born in 1981. Now the kids who are born in 2000 onwards, they are far more risk taking. Like a 25-year-old Indian, मतलब उनको तो देख के मुझे लगता है कि भाई थोड़ा धीरे चल. But it is what it is. But still, at a company level, at a macro level, I still feel Indian companies are not investing enough in research and development. What could be the factors in your view?
Uh, this is a fairly kind of complex issue, Kushalji, including a lot of chicken and egg problems there. Mohandas ji is an expert in many of these things. Incidentally, he's written an endorsement for me for the book as well. Definitely, first of all, the numbers are dramatic. The total R&D spend in India is only about 0.65% of GDP. We need to get to a minimum of at least 2%. I've stressed that a lot throughout the book and especially in that section, that 2% has to be our minimum target to get to.
Exactly,
Now,
which is why I wanted to discuss
yeah.
this because
No, so I feel it's both ways. It's not really government can do very little with the private sector except encourage them. All the new areas of development, the government has been stressing a lot in their interactions with corporate India, like you mentioned, whether it's to do with semiconductors, AI, defense manufacturing, all that. The PLI schemes, in fact, were designed to give support to a lot of these important sectors. So the interaction, and kind of little bit of hand holding of the government with corporate India is definitely happening. The corporates have to step forward. Corporate earnings have been record in India. Things are going well. Profitability is high. We have a large domestic market. So we are well cushioned and insulated from a lot of the geopolitics. I mean, the corporates are. So I think it's important for them to also now, unleash some of this in India in terms of more innovation, R&D. We are seeing that, in fact, happening more with startups. As you're aware, we have a huge now vibrant startup system in India, and they are entering a lot of these nascent sectors, whether it's even aerospace or defense. We've heard about many companies. I won't name some of the companies, but who've done interesting things with satellites, aerospace sector. In fact, in the recently successful Operation Sindoor, a lot of the drone technology, a lot of these interesting new tech that helped us in this mission was done by startups. A lot of startups coming out of Bengaluru or even a couple of them from Pune. So it's happening at the startup level. Corporate India, has to come forward, do things that they need to do. But it's very difficult for, I think government to push beyond a certain point. All that they can do is encourage and handhold.
fair enough. I just feel it has also got a lot to do with the way our society is. If I was good at music, I would have never dared to be a musician. It was just like
Like,
it was like
I don't know.
डर
I
लगता
get
था.
I get where you're coming from. I think we were always resource constrained. There used to be queues for everything. So maybe again, that's kind of hardwired into our psyche. But another thing, I would say in this, Kushalji, to your point, I agree with you that, the young people are taking risks. They are looking to do new things. They are looking to be, job creators instead of job seekers. Like in my role as a mentor on many platforms, I have especially trying to give time to teams that are coming from tier 2, 3 cities or even the rural background because the startup guys from Pune, Mumbai, Bangalore, all that have a lot of support. So I'm trying to help these teams from the smaller towns and cities, and the kind of confidence they have, really kind of excites me about what's going to happen in India as we go forward. But the point that I would like to make is a lot of this risk aversion or risk taking ability comes from how risk averse capital is. So essentially, why in the US, etc., a lot of this, it's easy to take risks. It's easy to start something, fail, shut down, move ahead, is because, if you've taken loans or even raised capital, it's easy to, just close that very quickly. While in India, some of this also has to be looked at from that point of view. That if somebody is raising capital or debt, and if the lenders are essentially, just talking that they are risk averse, but actually, not so easy, and the conditions that they've given to the startups or to even the corporates is quite tough. That's also how the risk taking ability gets constrained to a great extent. So, along with our entrepreneurs wanting to take risks, the capital also should be supportive enough for this risk taking.
The last section that I want to focus on, because I don't want to give away a lot of the book. And can I just say I want to applaud you for writing this bit in the book, because many few people are paying attention is to healthcare and well-being. Now, this is one place where the government of India, I want to applaud them. They have done fantastic work. People don't realize that. This is where I 100% agree with you on the book. 100% agreement. The healthcare section, yes, the application of the schemes, let's say Ayushman Bharat, is it perfect in its application? My doctor friends tell me payment थोड़ी late आती है कई बार, so private hospitals are not that willing. But I think overall in healthcare we have done tremendous things, and we can just link Prime Minister's Swachh Bharat mission to the drop of malaria and dengue cases in India, and how that results in freeing up of beds and other cascading effects and many other things that are happening. But the one thing that I'm concerned about, that nobody wants to talk about in the public sphere in India, is the Indian diet is flawed. It's very carbohydrate heavy. Indians don't want to listen to that. How do we change that?
You know, first of all, thanks for appreciating that importance of the section on, healthcare and well-being. But Kushalji, this is, I mean, difficult for me to answer that question because I keep hearing both schools of thought. Some people say that our DNA is suited to this high carb diet. Sometimes I hear things about you need to be on low carb. All of this. It's difficult really for me to comprehend which school of thought to listen to. On my own personal level, I've really seen an improvement in my own health after I've started yoga. It's been about 6 months, a long and painful journey, but I'm seeing tremendous impacts of all of this, coupled with all the breathing techniques and all. So I'm finding this dramatic myself, and more I'm appreciating what our ancient all healthcare and science we had in India. And the more I'm realizing that we need to go back to a lot of these, our old cultural roots, not only in terms of how to live your life, the lifestyle, but I think I need to now look at what you're mentioning, even a little deep into what our text said about eating, what to eat, when to eat, what is the right time to eat. I myself love my carbs. The only thing that I do is, I think, limit its portion control more or less. I'm very watchful about the quantity I eat. But taking a cue from you, I'm going to study this a little more.
Now, my biggest concern with the lack of discussion on health in India is that, first of all, I want to say this on the record. I'm glad the Prime Minister spoke about obesity in his latest 15th August address. Now, obviously, आपने जब पुस्तक लिखी थी तो आपको थोड़ा ना पता था कि प्रधानमंत्री जी अभी बात करने वाले हैं इसके बारे में. So that's not your fault. Your book is written a while ago, but that the Prime Minister is acknowledging it is a sign that Indians should worry about protein deficiency in their diets. Indians should watch out on the sugar. Indians also don't realize that endogamy rates are far too high in India, and that leads to other cascading effects in India. And these are all, it's not one, it's a multiplicity of factors that comes together. And this holistic approach, I think the Indian approach to capitalism is far more conscious and ethical. It's not that India is anti-capitalist. India just believes that unabashed materialistic tendencies tend to create its own problems. It doesn't mean India should be socialist. It just means India should be frugal. Indians in general are frugal. Like people, like, I don't know if it happens in this generation, but it was very common in middle class India. I grew up a middle class boy, that all the family goes to the same school, so uniforms were passed on from the elders. बड़े भाई की यूनिफॉर्म छोटा भाई पहनता था, भाई वही होता था हमारे घर में, तो सेम यूनिफॉर्म थी, भाई क्यों वेस्ट करनी, तू पहन, स्कूल की यूनिफॉर्म ही है. टेक्स्ट बुक अगर चेंज नहीं हुई, टेक्स्ट बुक मुझे नहीं मालूम आज के बच्चे करते हैं कि नहीं, मगर हम तो टेक्स्ट बुक ले लेते थे, पुरानी टेक्स्ट बुक ले लेते. इट्स नॉट दैट वी कुड नॉट अफोर्ड इट, बट माँ बाप बोलते थे अगर वो टेक्स्ट बुक अच्छी है तो तू क्यों पेपर वेस्ट कर रहा है. या the mindset was not saving money. My parents could afford a
Right.
textbook, but the mindset was waste kyun karna. That was
Absolutely.
always the attitude. So I hope we retain those cultural aspects, because that is something that is unique to our culture. I believe we are very, very in sync with our environment culture. And that's why I was glad that you brought this entire section in the book, where I think a lot of Indian health is the line, eat what your ancestors ate. Are bhai, kaun se ancestor? The potato is not native to India. The Portuguese got it. A lot of what you call Indian food today was gotten by a foreigner. Like you want to eat what the Indus Valley people ate? Be careful what you wish for, because kuch bhi nahi milega khane ko.
Well, these are interesting points, Kushalji. In fact, to your point of frugality, I find it more like it's practicality rather. We have all the fancy terms in the Western countries about recycling, etc. When they speak to me, I literally want to laugh because we've been recycling everything forever. That's how the Indian culture and society is. This is all hardwired into us, and it's been in our ancient texts forever. Everything is recycled, upcycled. All these modern terminology, we used to always do it. Even in terms of your food, if you see sometimes small things, the honorable prime minister's emphasis on millets, this is a story I love telling, Kushalji. Even we've now moved more or less, we are not having wheat maida at all our rotis are different types of millets, bajri, jawar, etc. I'm always amazed at the small things he stresses and the kind of large impact it can create. So basically, these are all native grains. Like you rightly pointed out, many of the stuff we are eating is not from our subcontinent. And hence also it leads to a lot of health problems because, our body is not used to it really. It's not designed for that. While going back to millets, which are our native grains, it's even great for the farmer because typically in India they have small acreage of land. Their land holdings are small and fragmented. These can grow in even arid areas, and they don't require fertilizers and pesticides. You're preventing all of that. Also, highly healthy, nutritious, not causing the harm of other carbs that you mentioned earlier. And I also love a small thing, Kushalji. We used to always, in our terminology, it was called mota anaj. So it had a negative connotation. This entire thing has changed. Now everybody is consuming millets. I see that all over, whether it's Pune, Mumbai, Delhi. And in this also, Honorable Prime Minister so, nicely used the term and rebranded this Shri Anna. Even the branding matters. As soon as you're calling it Shri Anna and not Mota Anaj, see the dramatic change that takes place in people's mind. So, a lot of things are being looked at holistically, and, I think work is happening on our health without us knowing it. Like you said, whether it's Swachh Bharat leading to cleanliness or this Shri Anna, improving health. So I think what Honorable Prime Minister speaks and even mentioning obesity is very important. And you can see that they are concerned and in their own subtle manner, taking steps to ensure that, net, there is an improvement in the health and well-being of our citizens.
Yeah, I believe we need to have such discussions very frequently and very openly. I think, at times Indians are very emotional people. They tend to be very, and the my ancestors knew everything crowd is the doing the biggest disservice to Indians. Nobody's ancestors knew everything. Everybody learns off of each other. I always tell people, भाई अगर तेरे ancestors को सब मालूम था तो आलू बाहर से क्यों आया, पहले क्यों नहीं उगाया? सिंपल सी बात है ना, नहीं उगाया क्योंकि नहीं आता था, सब कुछ नहीं आता है कि सबको. So we need to learn the best from all cultures. We need to create our own version of that, and let's see where this goes. But I'm glad that this has happened. One last question before we wrap up. Viksit Bharat is of 2047. Now there is no guarantee that the NDA will be in power. Do you think the goal remains the same if the NDA goes out of the window?
Uh, I would say to a great extent I'm biased. Seeing all the work that's happened under Prime Minister Modi ji. So my belief is it could possibly impact the targets. I'm hopeful, I've written a section there in the book called The Mathematics of the $30 trillion economy and a $18,000 dollar per capita, income. Those kind of projections have been made assuming that, the kind of course that we have set for the country, I would say, remains unchanged. Hence, by inference, it means that hopefully the driver remains the same, the leadership remains the same, stewardship of the ship. So I think that's kind of inferred to some extent. Although I firmly believe, that the book, the entire thing is about Bharat. It's about India. And, any changes, any leadership changes, one mustn't lose sight of, where this journey is taking Bharat and why it's important for Bharat. So I'm hoping that doesn't change, though, like, in my inference, I'm assuming that the stewardship doesn't change. And just quickly, Kushalji, the targets set are quite reasonable, keeping the kind of trajectory we've set for ourselves and the kind of reforms, etc., that we are doing. I always, like to say that it's like a T20 cricket match. What I'm essentially trying to highlight here is that the required run rate is quite reasonable and doable, provided we suddenly, don't lose all our wickets and do something dramatically different. It's not like you need 20 or 30 runs and over to win this T20. So the targets are within reach, and I think India can get there. I'm hoping, in fact, with these new big bang reforms that have just been announced, a couple of days ago, which is being termed GST 2.0, and also all the other things that the Honorable Prime Minister has spoken about. I think we are really jump-starting a new wave of reforms in India, and according to me, we might reach our targets even 5 to 10 years ahead of schedule if this is kept up. And we, at that time, I think, need to send somebody a thank you note for helping, accelerate a lot of our targets there.
Fair enough. I sincerely hope that there is political consistency in India, because political consistency leads to policy consistency. The only place where in India we've had policy consistency by and large, with slight deviation here or there, is the foreign policy of India. But other than that, considering now with Donald Trump and the changing, the irony is both of us, as we are recording this, we are in the United States of America as we are recording this discussion. But Trump has. I'm going to be eternally grateful to Trump for all the wrong reasons, but I think his belligerence has actually finally shaken up the Indian bureaucratic class. And the GST reforms. I spoke to Karan Bhasin after I read his article that had recently come, and Karan has done the math. We have an effective tax cut of 5.4% in this GST reform. That's a lot of percentage in tax cuts. This is going to really boost the economy. People don't understand this, and this will, now I hope it's backed up by a couple of other things, which a lot of economists have been demanding. If that happens, honestly, आप करें आप 2047 नहीं, आप 2040 तक आपका टारगेट अचीव कर पाओगे.
No, no, Kushalji, I firmly believe that. Aside from what you're saying, this large cut, I also want to point out for a large country like India that all these decisions were taken in under 1 month, in under 30 days. Such complex things were thought of and implemented. The effective date when this comes into effect is 22nd September. But just see not only the scale, also the speed at which all this has happened, and it speaks volumes about the leadership, the decision-making capabilities, etc., at the very top. And I am really optimistic as well as pragmatic that this could easily add a couple of percentage points to our growth rate, and we will. I'm more or less, definitely I can say we will reach these targets well before schedule.
Yeah. Uh, I'm an eternal optimist like you. I am a firm believer in the India story, Aditya ji, and I wish you all the best. It was an absolute pleasure to read your book. To be very honest, it is a great culmination of what India has done till now, and maybe what India could do. Obviously, there could be things that could be added. Like I absolutely loved reading this book, and once again, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Kushalji, thank you. It was a pleasure interacting with you. If you don't mind, I would like to end for you as well as the listeners. A quote, my favorite quote by the Honorable Prime Minister, which is "यही समय है, सही समय है, भारत का अनमोल समय है." Let's all work together for nation building and achieve this dream.
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. So, guys, we'll wrap up over here. Once again, the link to buy the book is there in the description of the podcast. Whether you're listening to this on Spotify or your preferred audio platform, or you're watching this on YouTube, you can click the link, look at the description. The Amazon link is there. I would recommend you go buy this book. These are the kinds of discussions that we need to have. And if you disagree with it, right, you can talk to Mr. Pittie at on X. He's there. His X handle is there. You can give him feedback about the book. And as far as the Cārvāka podcast is concerned, you know the drill. Keep supporting the Cārvāka podcast. If you want to do it monetarily, you have UPI and Interac Canada. You can buy my book. The link is there in the description. You can buy Cārvāka podcast merchandise. If you can't do anything, just like this video, subscribe to the Cārvāka podcast YouTube channel, leave a comment in the comment section, and if you are an audio listener, do consider leaving a rating or a review on your preferred audio platform. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, this is Kushal Mehra signing off from the Cārvāka podcast. Take care.